Okay, so now let's just summarize what we have so far. We have something that we commit the offsets manually. We also have idempotent inserts and updates for a consumer, which is awesome. And we are looping over all the records. Something that's missing is that right now we are doing one request at a time. So we say for every record into the records batch we receive, we are going to do a index request. And that takes a lot of time. And so our consumer is really not that quick. What we'd like to do is something a bit more efficient and use batching. So to use batching, we can do the following. We'll have to create something called a bulk request. So here I'll go into my Elastic code and say bulk request, and we'll create a bulk request, which is equal to a new bulk request. And we can insert stuff in bulk. Now we say for each consumer record in the records, we still create our index request. So we keep this, but instead of executing here, I'm not going to execute it. I'm going to say bulk request.add, and we add our index request. And so basically here we just loop over all the records and load all of them into a bulk request. This is not needed anymore, okay? So here we add to our bulk request, and that takes no time. So we don't need the sleep anymore. We're happy. And now when we're done with the for loop, so when we've created all our requests, we can do something called bulk response, which is bulk response equals new client dot bulk, and we pass in the bulk request, and the options are the request options dot default. So here we go, we have a bulk responses, and basically when that finishes, it's done. We have inserted how many elements at a time, so this is great, and then we can commit the offsets. So that should speed up our consumers quite a bit. So let's have a look and now enable to have a max poll records config of say 100 to increase it a bit. And we have used this bulk request now to basically take efficient usage of batching. And so let's go ahead and run this. And we get a validation error, no request added. So that's correct because we've received 0 records. So let's be a bit smarter into what we do. We're going to extract the record count right here. So integer record count equals this. And we can say received record counts. And we basically want to commit the offsets and do the bulk request only if we have received something. So if record count is greater than 0, then, and we place this all right here. So now we only execute this part of the code when we do receive records. So this was a small bug. Let's go ahead and rerun that consumer. So now we receive 100 records at a time, and we are inserting them 100 records at a time into Elasticsearch using the bulk item responses. And when it's done, we commit the offsets, and the offsets have been committed, and we go ahead and play with the next 100 records. So you can play with this, but clearly our code is much quicker, and we get a small null pointer exception. So let's have a look right here. And our code extract from tweet is not really great. So because there's an error, so we need to deal with this. And so this basically comes from the fact that if a tweet does not have the ID string, which is rare but might happen, or you get bad data, then you get a null pointer exception. So we need to deal with this null pointer exception. So let's just do it right here. When we do extract the ID from tweet, we can say try this, and we're going to try this entire thing. And if we get a exception, so we'll say catch null pointer exception, E, then we'll say log.warn skipping bad data. And bad data happens in production. So this is quite a real world example because sometimes you have bad data. And we'll just pass it the record.value so we can look at the bad data. So this should fix the null pointer exception. Now let's go ahead and rerun this code entirely and see if it runs all the way through. So currently we receive 0 records, but soon enough there will be a rebalance. Here's the rebalance. And now we can see that it skipped bad data. And so if we look at the bad data, then yes, it's just a limit thing that we received. And so this is basically something wrong that looks like maybe it's a limit we've had in the Twitter application. So this is definitely bad data. But when we skip that bad data, we're basically allowing our program not to fail and to keep on receiving records and committing the offsets. So all of this looks great. It works like our program is running. And now it's much quicker to run because we receive 100 records at a time and commit this directly into Elasticsearch. So I hope you're happy with this. This is quite awesome. And I will see you in the next lecture.